The sharp click of the office door echoed through the sterile hallway, slicing through the hum of fluorescent lights. She stood frozen, her fingers clutching the edge of a manila folder so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Across from her, Richard, senior partner and architect of this precise kind of devastation, adjusted his tie with an air of practiced indifference. The words he had just spoken still hung in the air like smoke, heavy and suffocating. We've decided to restructure the innovation team. Your role is no longer necessary. Her throat tightened as if an invisible hand were squeezing it shut. 35 years. 3 decades and 5 years she had poured into this company, shaping its ideas, breathing life into its projects, only for them all to crumble at her feet in one cold sentence. Her vision blurred slightly as tears threatened to spill over, but she blinked them away, refusing to give him the satisfaction of seeing her break down. Richard's voice droned on, explaining something about shifting priorities and fresh perspectives, but she barely heard him. Instead, her mind raced back to earlier that morning when she had walked into the office brimming with excitement over her latest proposal, a project unlike anything they'd ever seen before. It was bold, daring, innovative. And now? Now it felt like ash scattered across the wind. As Richard finally stopped talking, silence settled between them like a thick fog. He gestured vaguely toward the door, signaling that their meeting, and apparently her career within these walls, was officially over. With trembling hands, she tucked the folder under her arm and straightened her posture, determined not to let him see how deeply his words had cut. Every step toward the exit felt heavier than the last, each one pulling her further away from everything she thought defined her professional identity. When she reached the elevator, she pressed the button harder than necessary, watching the numbers tick downward with mounting dread. When the door slid open, she stepped inside without looking back, leaning against the cool metal wall as the car descended. Alone at last, she allowed herself a moment of vulnerability, letting out a shaky breath that sounded too much like a sob. But even then, amidst the sting of rejection and betrayal, there was something else stirring deep inside her, a flicker of defiance, small but steady, waiting for oxygen to ignite. The drive home passed in a haze of anger and disbelief, the cityscape outside her car window blurring into streaks of gray and gold as the sun dipped lower in the sky. She gripped the steering wheel tightly, her knuckles still pale, replaying Richard's words over and over again in her head. Fresh perspectives? Restructuring? They were excuses, thinly veiled attempts to mask what this really was, a dismissal born out of complacency and fear. Fear of change, fear of disruption, fear of someone who dared to push boundaries instead of staying safely within them. By the time she pulled into her driveway, the initial shock had begun to morph into something sharper, more pointed. Betrayal. After 35 years of loyalty, dedication, and countless late nights spent brainstorming solutions to problems no one else wanted to tackle, this was how they repaid her? By casting her aside like yesterday's news? The thought made her chest burn with a mix of indignation and hurt, but beneath it all, another emotion simmered quietly, steadily growing stronger with every passing second: resolve. She sat in her car for a few moments longer, staring blankly at the dashboard as twilight painted long shadows across her yard. The house before her looked the same as it always did, modest yet welcoming, but tonight it felt different somehow, as though its familiar contours held secrets she hadn't noticed before. Secrets waiting to be uncovered. Slowly, deliberately, she grabbed the manila folder from the passenger seat and stepped out of the car, her movements deliberate despite the storm brewing inside her. Inside the house, the quiet enveloped her like a comforting blanket, though it offered little solace. She dropped her bag by the door and headed straight for her study, flipping on the light to reveal shelves lined with books, awards, and mementos from years gone by. This room had always been her sanctuary, a place where creativity flowed freely and ideas took shape. Tonight, however, it felt smaller somehow, confined by 4 walls that suddenly seemed suffocating. She set the folder down on her desk and stared at it for a long moment, her jaw tightening as memories flooded back unbidden. The countless meetings where she had championed bold concepts only to be met with skepticism or outright resistance. The whispered conversations behind closed doors when others questioned whether she was still relevant. And now this, the ultimate slap in the face disguised as corporate jargon. But then, buried beneath the anger and frustration, came clarity. A realization so obvious it almost startled her: none of those things mattered anymore. Not Richard, not the boardroom politics, not the endless cycle of approval-seeking that had slowly eroded her sense of self-worth. What mattered was the folder sitting in front of her, containing the blueprint for a project so revolutionary it could reshape industries. A project they had rejected, Not because it wasn't good enough, but because it scared them. Because it challenged the status quo they clung to so desperately. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened the folder and spread the papers across the desk. Diagrams, charts, notes scribbled in her own handwriting stared back at her, each one a testament to years of hard work and sleepless nights. For weeks, maybe months, she had agonized over every detail, refining and perfecting until it felt ready. Ready for them. But now? Now it didn't matter what they thought. They weren't going to define her worth any longer. Standing abruptly, she began pacing the room, her thoughts spinning faster than ever before. If they refused to see the value in her work, then she would show them. No, scratch that, they wouldn't get the chance. This wasn't about proving anything to them anymore. This was about proving something to herself. About reclaiming the fire that had driven her early in her career, the fire they had tried to extinguish with their bureaucratic nonsense and petty power plays. With newfound determination coursing through her veins, she reached for her phone and scrolled through her contacts until she found the number she needed. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered, warm and slightly surprised. "Hey, it's me," she said, her tone firm despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. "I need your help." And just like that, the first domino fell. Over the next few days, the house transformed into a hive of activity. Old acquaintances became collaborators, dusty connections reignited with fervor. Each call, each email sent pulses of adrenaline through her system, fueling the fire that had been sparked that fateful evening. Ideas once shelved for lack of support were dusted off, polished, and woven into the fabric of her burgeoning plan. Late nights blurred into early mornings as blueprints morphed under her meticulous guidance, evolving beyond their original scope into something audacious, something undeniably groundbreaking. In the heart of her study, surrounded by scattered papers and glowing screens, she worked tirelessly. The world outside seemed distant, muted, irrelevant compared to the symphony of creation unfolding around her. Her living room doubled as a makeshift workshop, cluttered with prototypes and half-finished models. Friends and former colleagues streamed in and out, bringing fresh perspectives and unwavering support. Together, they forged ahead, driven by a shared vision that transcended individual egos or past grievances. Yet, amidst the flurry of activity, doubts occasionally crept in, whispering insidious thoughts of failure and inadequacy. Nights when exhaustion weighed heavily, and the enormity of what she had embarked upon threatened to overwhelm her. But each time she pushed through, drawing strength from the collective energy of her team and the unyielding belief that this project was destined to redefine boundaries. The turning point came unexpectedly during a brainstorming session. Huddled around a cluttered table, the group wrestled with a particularly stubborn design flaw. Frustration mounted as solution after solution faltered under scrutiny. Then, in a moment of serendipitous clarity, an idea surfaced, a radical departure from conventional methods yet perfectly aligned with the project's core philosophy. It was risky, perhaps even foolhardy, but it carried the unmistakable spark of genius. Emboldened, they dove into implementing the new approach, pouring every ounce of passion and expertise into making it work. Progress accelerated rapidly, fueled by renewed vigor and the tantalizing promise of success. As pieces fell into place, the project began to take on a life of its own, pulsating with potential and possibility. Outside observers might have marveled at the transformation, not just of the project itself, but of its creator. Gone was the woman who had walked out of that office dejected and defeated. In her stead stood a force of nature, resolute and unyielding, channeling pain into purpose with remarkable grace. Her eyes, once clouded with uncertainty, now burned with conviction, reflecting the brilliance of a dream reborn from ashes. As deadlines loomed and anticipation built, whispers of their endeavor began to ripple through professional circles. Curiosity piqued, former skeptics leaned in closer, eager to catch glimpses of what was unfolding behind closed doors. Speculation ran rampant, painting vivid pictures of innovation poised to shatter preconceived notions and rewrite rules. And while whispers swirled and intrigue mounted, she remained steadfast, focused solely on the task at hand. For in the crucible of creation, amidst chaos and collaboration, lay the true essence of reinvention, not merely of products or processes, but of spirit and resolve. This was her masterpiece, her magnum opus, and nothing short of perfection would suffice. The day arrived sooner than expected, cloaked in an electric tension that crackled in the air. Invitations had been discreetly distributed weeks prior, cryptic yet compelling enough to pique curiosity among industry elites. The venue, A sleek downtown loft converted temporarily into a showcase space, buzzed with anticipation as guests filtered in, their polished exteriors masking the eagerness simmering beneath. She stood near the entrance, observing the scene unfold with a mixture of trepidation and exhilaration. Clad in a tailored suit that exuded confidence, she greeted attendees with a composed smile, though her pulse raced wildly. Faces she recognized mingled with strangers, some nodding politely while others exchanged speculative glances. Among them were former colleagues, their expressions ranging from guarded interest to thinly veiled skepticism. Richard himself lingered near the bar, nursing a drink while surveying the crowd with calculated detachment. As the clock struck 7, signaling the official start of the presentation, she stepped onto a minimalist stage bathed in soft lighting. A hush fell over the room, all eyes turning toward her. Taking a deep breath, she began, her voice steady despite the storm raging within. "Thank you all for joining me tonight," she said, pausing briefly to let the weight of her gratitude sink in. "What you're about to witness isn't just a project, it's a testament to resilience, creativity, and the relentless pursuit of progress." Behind her, a large screen flickered to life, displaying the first visuals of her creation. Gasps rippled through the audience as intricate designs danced across the display, accompanied by concise explanations detailing functionality and impact. Each slide unveiled another layer of ingenuity, weaving together threads of technology, artistry, and practical application into a tapestry of pure innovation. Midway through the presentation, she introduced a live demonstration, a bold move designed to anchor abstract concepts firmly in reality. As the prototype sprang to life, murmurs of astonishment erupted, growing louder with each passing moment. Attendees leaned forward in their seats, captivated by the seamless integration of form and function, the elegance of execution leaving many visibly awestruck. Throughout the room, reactions varied wildly. Some scribbled furiously in notebooks, capturing every detail. Others captured images surreptitiously, hoping to dissect the marvel later. Near the front, a prominent tech blogger whispered excitedly to her companion, already envisioning headlines that would dominate tomorrow's feeds. Meanwhile, Richard's demeanor shifted subtly, his initial aloofness giving way to something akin to unease as realization dawned. He hadn't anticipated this level of brilliance. Yet, amidst the awe and admiration, pockets of resistance lingered. Skeptics muttered under their breath, questioning feasibility or scalability, clinging to doubt as a shield against the undeniable allure of what they witnessed. One such critic approached her during a brief intermission, challenging aspects of the design with thinly veiled condescension. Unfazed, she responded with poise and precision, dismantling objections with logic and evidence, leaving him momentarily speechless. By the end of the evening, the atmosphere had transformed entirely. Initial skepticism dissolved into genuine intrigue, replaced by animated discussions and fervent debates about implications and possibilities. Guests lingered long after the formal presentation concluded, reluctant to part ways with the electrifying energy permeating the space. Business cards exchanged hands freely, networking taking on a feverish intensity as opportunities unfolded before their very eyes. For her part, she navigated the aftermath with quiet triumph, savoring each interaction, each acknowledgement of her work's merit. Yet beneath the surface, a deeper satisfaction brewed, a vindication not sought but profoundly felt. This wasn't merely about proving doubters wrong, it was about forging a path illuminated by courage and conviction, reminding everyone present, including herself, that true innovation thrives not within confines but beyond them. As the final guests departed, leaving behind echoes of applause and admiration, she allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. Standing alone amidst remnants of celebration, she gazed at the empty screen where dreams had materialized mere hours ago. Tomorrow promised challenges anew, battles yet unfought, but tonight belonged to victory, in all its unbridled glory.